So Mandy, I'm going to give Simon a break. We've heard about the organizational restructure, the go-to-market messaging. How does this impact me as an ordinary iOCO?
That's a very difficult question to answer, especially when you're answering it on behalf of the people, I think, in the audience. From a human capital perspective, what we've, I think, firstly got to acknowledge is the fact that we have placed a lot of change, and our people have been forced to be confronted with a mass amount of change in what has been and a very uncertain time, and which will still feel rather unsettled into the near future as we're starting to unpack and kind of solidify the structure as we go forward. We've created new workspaces, so we have people working in new workspaces. We have people working under an iOCO brand in an old workspace. We have staff based at client sites who have very little access or exposure to iOCO except when they engage with their leaders. The other challenge, I think, has been the expectation on a lot of our people to take on extra and do more in the same amount of time, and I think that's had a significant impact on time away from family, on finding the right balance. But I think the one that I generally get involved in conversations with people more has been, I think, the change in terms of leadership structures, teams that our people have been engaging with, and then very specifically, I think, around a sense of loss. If we're really honest about it, it's been tough. We've had people exit the organization out of their own will. They've chosen or elected to go on a different path, but we've also had to deal with the very difficult and challenging situation of the selective right-sizing and people losing colleagues and losing a sense of belonging in a family that they used to work in. And the key for me there has been, whatever impact this has had on our employees, is to really be honest and truthful in terms of how we communicate the change, but also to deal with a very empathetic approach in terms of how we're treating the situations. They're not always easy, but I think it's being visible, arriving every day, and being available to have those tough conversations with our employees. What has impressed me, though, however, has been the depth of resilience that I have seen in many of our iOCONs. That has really been something that has touched me. It's very difficult to make yourself vulnerable, but I think the authenticity and the transparent way in which we really try and deal with this has, I think, brought us a long way forward to building up trust. And where we've lost a bit of trust, there's still a path where I feel very comfortable that we can regain trust and comfort in terms of where we're going as an organization.
Okay, great.
Chief, can I
Go ahead.
tread in the risk area? I think what I have huge empathy and respect for is how many people feel let down, disappointed, misguided. The results are coming out, the balance sheet's taken a 70% knock. I think in spending no time in dwelling how we got to that situation, the one piece I do want to share with everybody from an optimistic perspective, despite how tough it will be to organize ourselves right for clients. The stuff Mandy's spoken about, to a large degree, Tsepa and Simon, if you had to say to me, as somebody who's going to be held squarely accountable for trying to organize part of this change, the stuff we're dealing with is the past. If I was sitting in front of you, where I was for a short period of time in quite an extensive interview process, in front of Mnet or MultiChoice, they have no events that we're referring to now to talk about. Their future is a lot more bleak than ours, because they are a byproduct of everything that we can offer. The fact of the matter is there's almost nobody in this room that doesn't have Netflix. So if your sales targets are based on how many DSTV coders you sell, or how many people you need to program stuff nobody's going to watch, or what your ARPUs are, I can assure you, as tough as Renee and my job is at the moment in the finance in balancing the cash flows, what nobody must lose sight of is the fact that all the change that the country wants to infuse in the fourth industrial revolution, we have a chance. We have an opportunity. We are not the Kodak chief executives. We are not Mnet or MultiChoice. To come up with those answers at Mnet today in front of a crowd of 1,000 people would be a lot more difficult.
Very good.
How we harvest those opportunities, we're at least sitting in the right space. The things we are suffering from are legacy, but not in the industry. So in this tough space that you find yourself feeling at the moment, just understand that at least there is an opportunity in this VUCA world. There are many industries being disintermediated as we speak. If I was a landlord, when your biggest tenants are giving up half of your space, you can't go and say, oh, it was because there was some financial mismanagement or we bought assets we shouldn't have. The business model you currently have is flawed. So to say, how are we going to let out Sandton City? How are we going to let out? If you're a Liberty portfolio, look at what the property shares have done. So all the industries that are being disintermediated, we don't have that problem. We have a chance. It's up to us.
Indeed, indeed, and it is our opportunity. So perhaps, Mandy, you could just elaborate further, maybe a little bit more on our people strategy.
So I think part of what I've always taken away from many conversations I've had with Stephen has been this quote that he generally throws around about not missing the opportunity that unpleasant or uncertain circumstances, I think he uses the word crisis, but I don't think that that's really applicable right now, presents. So with the launch of the whole iOCO brand, we really went back to the drawing board from a human capital point of view and thought, how do we make our people strategy, which we still believe is the right people strategy? I firmly believe that. But make it relevant for the iOCONs and the people in the business. It was a great opportunity to reinvent, kind of make it a bit more jazzy, snazzy, sexier, because the iOCO brand for me does speak a lot about that, but also to make it something I think that emanates and oozes what an iOCON wants to experience within the organization. I firmly believe that the human capital team is the owner or the custodian of the I in the iOCO. And if we're really going to own that, that means that a lot of what we're going to be doing from a people strategy point of view is going to be working on the culture. How do we take the values that we are embedding in the organization and making that a culture that people will own? That you as iOCONs will own in your heart, in your mind, that you will use it in every single thing that you do, in the way that you work, the way that you engage with your leadership. This key focus, I think, for us still, despite the challenging times we're in, is around building capacity in the business. We still have work to do. We have clients that we're delivering with. There are partnerships that we need to maintain. And how do we keep and maintain the right talent in the business, but make sure that we're really igniting what is important to our people? A lot of this is bringing about a bit of a change in the way that we've done HR in the past. We refer to us now as the human capital team, and that really is around our role as part of driving change in the business. And that means we need to be able to make things relevant to people in the business, but also provide people with the platforms. Key for me, I think, in that change role is really embedding a culture of having true, transparent, and authentic conversations with our leaders. If we don't feel as though we've got the ability to communicate and share, we're not going to get the feedback or the outputs that our people want from us. So there's very much a focus on what do iOCONs want in the business, what are the challenges iOCONs are facing, bearing in mind that speaks to whether you're in a leadership role or whether you are in a delivery role at a client site. I think there's one quote that Henry Ford once used, and he said, you can take my factories, you can burn my buildings, but if you bring back my people, I will make this business great again. And I truly believe that. I think as a collective, if we work together, if we strive for what we really truly believe, and if everyone buys into this and pushes forward, collaborates, shares authentic stories, is very open in their engagement, I truly believe that we will make iOCO even greater than what I believe it is today already.